This video segment covers defensive strategies, the ones you've read about in eCampus: retrenchment, divestiture, and liquidation. We'll give some corporate examples of each. Part of our definition, if you remember from your eCampus reading or review of your textbook, is that the rationale is not intended to enhance a firm's competitive advantage. It's not that at all. Rather, defensive strategies are often enacted to help defend their competitive position because of some external shock or because of some internal problem with the organization, maybe a competitive maneuver. But the company is typically on the ropes and needs to do something in order to protect its product positioning. To define the first two, retrenchment is really simply stated just reduction of costs, like laying off people perhaps, or selling off of some assets to help reverse this organizational decline, and the monies may be put back into the organization, maybe in an offensive way, but at first they've got to find a way to cut costs or otherwise raise money through cost and asset reduction. And the second form of defensive strategy is that of divestiture, which we'll see in a moment is really the exact opposite of diversification, which we've talked about earlier in this module. And divestiture is when you sell part of the organization. It's usually either a subsidiary or a business unit or even a product line is sold off lock, stock, and barrel. Take the first one of these, that being retrenchment. Retrenchment, again, is trying to raise money to reverse whatever the negative situation there is in an organization. And as of this speaking, there could be no more contemporary retrenchment action in place than that of British Petroleum. British Petroleum has a lot of money to spend for unknown cleanup efforts going forward, lawsuits that have yet to materialize and probably will, and also public relations, a lengthy campaign that is going to be necessary in order to restore the good name of British Petroleum in the minds of the consumer, shareholder, and all other stakeholders. So this makes sense for British Petroleum. They indeed are on the ropes and need to effect a defensive strategy and are doing so. They're going to try to raise $30 million to this end. The second defensive strategy that we talked about on the prior slide is divestiture, and this is when you're looking at selling off part of a business. And again, I said often it's a product line or maybe a division or a subsidiary of an organization. Divestiture is something that Procter & Gamble's been trying to do. Procter & Gamble, as you probably know, is a very highly diversified company. They are involved in a lot of areas of household goods, mostly cleaning agents, health and beauty, and some over-the-counter medicines, even pet foods. What Procter & Gamble has been trying to do for a long time, and we just found out that they recently, 2008, sold Folgers. They also have been trying for a long time to sell their Duracell and Pringles line, not because they're unprofitable product lines, but instead I think Procter & Gamble sees they just don't fit. And if you go back to your definition in the eCampus reading of divestiture, many times divestiture is enacted because a product, and Pringles would be a perfect example in the context of that which Procter & Gamble offers, it simply doesn't fit with the firm's value chain, with its detergents, with its medicines, with its home grooming products. It really doesn't fit very well at all. There's not synergies with these value chains of these various products. That is a foodstuff to the chemical type of products that we've listed here. And secondly, of note, and this is just a cut and paste from your eCampus reading, divestitures have become very popular as a lot of firms are trying to refocus on their core strengths. This is the core strength right here of Procter & Gamble, the home products, the health and the cleaning type of products, which lessens their level of diversification. Maybe they're trying to get back to a functional level of diversification, or should I say an optimal level of diversification. This is reverse diversification, or the opposite of diversification is divestiture. And then finally, we look at the worst possible case for an organization, and that is liquidation, which technically is selling everything out. That's a strategy. It's organizational death is what it's called. But when you liquidate an organization, if you were to sell the whole organization, you are still liquidating it to try to get some money back for your shareholders. It may be pennies on the dollar is what they might get back, but at least you're getting something out of what might soon become nothing. Enron would be a good example of this. I also told you in the eCampus reading, I want you to be able to distinguish between Chapter 11 and Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Chapter 11 bankruptcy is a very often used strategy, and it does not mean organizational death, and it does not mean liquidation by any stretch of the imagination. Instead, there's a petition and an arrangement, a reorganization plan filed in a bankruptcy court, which protects the organization then from creditors, from suing the organization as it tries to reorganize and emerge from bankruptcy as a viable firm. But it protects the organization from, again, lawsuits and creditors for a certain amount of time. And I have a cut and paste here from a fairly recent article. Some of you may or may not have known that even the Chicago Cubs were in bankruptcy, but they affected the strategy so they could sell the team. If you read this, or if you can read this, depending on the resolution of your screen, they filed Chapter 11 so they could protect themselves from banks, anyone else they own money to, so they could shore up the company and actually sell it to another organization, thereby having a better chance of emerging from bankruptcy. If they were being sued to death, they wouldn't be able to sell the organization. It just wouldn't be attractive in the least to anybody. And then, as you also may remember from your eCampus reading, Chapter 7 is really liquidation. It's total liquidation. It's when you're trying to get as many pennies as you possibly can for original dollar invested for your shareholders or other constituents. This is the textbook example of Chapter 7 bankruptcy would be the demise and eventual liquidation of Enron.